Whether you keep them in your home or love to see them in theirs, these are the creatures that bring us all together.
Reptiles. We're going to be delving into the experiences of reptile lovers from around the block and around the world. This is the Reptile Talk Podcast.
Here we go. What's up, everybody? This is Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
And I'm Robin. I'm keeping it real.
So episode 46, we're getting close to our 50s, dude.
I'm into it.
Are you into the 50s?
Yeah. I like
the nifty 50s?
I like a mature.
Oh, wow. That's where we're going. I'm super excited because tonight we have
Very special guest.
a very special guest, the amazing
Mr. Garrett Hartle.
the
from
amazing
Reach Out
Super
Reptiles.
Dwarf King.
Yeah.
Let's get Garrett
on,
in
pull
here
him right
real
on.
quick.
I'm super pumped for this episode.
Hello.
Boom, there
What
he
up,
is.
dude?
What's
How's
up,
it going?
man?
Garrett Hartle.
Could you guys see me about 2 seconds before this?
No. Were you chugging a drink or
I
something?
drank this and then I was like hacking my lungs out. And you're like, let's get them on. And I was like, oh, they're coming.
Not right time.
It's like Garrett just dying right now.
Swallow the Corona. I'm live. Just bury it deep inside, like down there with the
Amazing.
emotions. I'm okay though.
Don't cry.
We're
Don't
ready.
Cry.
Amazing. Yeah, no crying on live streams. That's a rule.
Oh,
All right,
are we live
man.
already? Oh man.
We
We
are.
are live. We
All
are
right.
live.
Yeah, that's
So,
just like everything
get
else in my
into
life.
For the people who might not have known a little bit of your background story, what got you into reptiles? What really drew your passion for reptiles?
It's got to be genetic. I don't like. So my folks weren't into it or whatever. It's some kind of buried recessive thing that came up. I mean,
Recessive
Like-
trait. Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
like the go-to story was like barely walking, talking, whatever. Grew up here in Pittsburgh. Went down to the creek. My mom said, so I was probably like 2 or something. I caught a water snake and I had it midsection, mid-body in my fist.
Oh,
and I'm
damn.
squeezing the dickens out of it like only a 2-year-old can.
like kid, yeah.
Yeah. And it's musking and peeing and biting me. And I'm saying, look,
Mm.
Mom, ow, isn't it pretty? Ow. Can I keep it? Ow.
Amazing.
So
Oh my.
yeah, honestly, it's an all animals thing for me. But I'm allergic to almost everything. So I got into fish and reptiles pretty hard. And then I also do a lot in life. So kind of lazy where I can be. And reptiles are way easier to maintain than fish. So I just kind
For
of,
sure.
and then I had like all reptiles, like a lot of frogs and stuff. And then I was like, oh, those are kind of a pain. And then, you know what I mean? Like narrowed down, like, oh, lizards, you know, you got to feed them like the veggie eating ones. They're gone. Tortoises, iguanas out, you know,
Really?
narrowed it down to like, you know, cricket. And then later it was like roaches only because those were a little bit easier. So I still had all the odiatra and stuff. And then I was like, I got to feed them like every day though. And then it's like, okay, it's down. Like,
Yes.
okay, only retics. Now these are kind of big. Like, let's just only do the small ones. So it's the laser focus comes purely from laziness. Purely.
That's
Honestly,
fair.
I'm surprised that it took so long for someone to really step up and take hold of the super dwarfs, because when I was looking at retics back in the day, I was thinking like, oh man, the retics they got so many cool morphs, but you know, for the people who, you know, the average person, when I think of like most of my friends who keep reptiles, I'm like, you probably shouldn't have a 15-foot long snake. Like just based on pure the amount of muscle it takes to pick it up, like just that
Are you saying
alone.
all your friends are twigs? Rob?
No,
okay.
no.
All right.
Just that
No, dude,
big
it
snakes
wears
are
you
heavy.
out. I
They're
mean,
powerful. Yeah.
I was just up there visiting with you guys at Nerd a few weeks ago and playing with all the big snakes, and Kevin's, you know, super cool, showing us all around. We're pulling all these big original animals out and stuff. And I remember I even said it in a video. I think it made it onto my YouTube channel somewhere, where I was like, I feel like I'm like mainland retic uncle. Like, hey guys, what's up? Let's play. And now I'm going to just feed you candy and leave you here with dad.
And then
Have fun.
Go hang out with my kids.
Peace.
Cool.
Yeah. My kids are like small and quiet over there. So
Yeah. They're so well behaved. They just hang out at the bank, and you're like, that's my kid right there.
Yeah.
To be fair though, there was certainly like there was a very niche community of dedicated keepers with the super dwarfs from the beginning, you know, and these, a lot of them aren't into it now. Like Travis Kubis is one that comes to mind. We all talk about the TK line Kalatoas because it's kind of his legacy. Jason Reed was another one. I mean, the Gaspars did the Jamp stuff, but I don't think it was like all that exclusive. I mean, within their collection, Garrett DeMeyer, used to really enjoy
Yeah.
those. You know,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
the
remember that,
Garrett
yeah.
Demeyer Super Dwarf. I still have some in the,
Really?
the
Oh,
room
man.
there. Yeah, all
That's
the old
awesome.
school stuff.
Yeah.
But I think there was a progression that needed to happen with retics as a species, because
Mhm.
when I was a kid and keeping retics, they were awful. It was like, yeah, you want a retic or maybe a Nile crocodile? You know what I mean?
Something
It's
that
like
wants to rip you apart. Yeah.
it can and probably will try to kill you. And I mean, when I was dating Ashley's my wife now, I had a like a full-size bed that was a bunk bed, and the bottom part was all built. I built it myself, the whole thing out of like 2x8s, and the bottom part was a big enclosure. And I remember one of my big females, like she was pushing 18 feet, which people are always like, oh, my retic's 25 feet. Get out of here.
No, no, it's
eight,
not.
8 foot is a monster.
A big,
And-
big one. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was not like some nice, tame, whatever you're talking about, like a real retic from the jungle back in the day, you know. And she blew out a glass pane just by like propping herself up against the two
Yep.
edges of the cage, just boom, and broke out, glass everywhere. Snake is cut up, scared, defensive, crazy. I ran into the room. I'm like, babe, help me out. She's like, no way, and closed me in. Closed it, like my only escape. Closed me in with this giant retic that's like spazzing out and injured. And I was kind of like, I'll grab the head. I just need you to like keep the tail off of my neck, you know? And she's like,
yeah.
you're on your own. So anyway,
If you haven't met Garrett in person, he's like 6'8" and like 225 pounds of muscle.
Yeah,
So he can handle a bigger tick like that.
he can.
I take it that not all of your listeners can see the video on this one.
No.
But it's
No.
it's
That
forced,
was a
it's
joke.
forced or non-forced perspective.
Yeah.
You know, that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
There it is. No, I'm more like the honey badger. Don't care. Like little guy just run up and bite the African lion by the nuts and hang on. The African lion's like, "Whoa!" You know what I'm saying? You just like I mean, you guys seen the video how to get a retic to stop biting you? I got that 12-footer like chewing on my arm. I'm like and chewing on her tail. Drop it.
Yep.
You know, someone was talking about that today. They were saying, how did you figure that out? Because I was doing this, I was trying to find the alcohol, and I kind of remembered that video, and I did it. And I said, now how family friendly is this podcast?
You can do whatever you want.
Say whatever the fuck
Okay.
you want, dude.
Okay. So my point was, I was like, no. You just need to know how to like work the room, right? So if I'm in a bar fight, I can be the little dude and someone could be whomping on me. I could be getting my butt kicked. But the second I stick my finger up that other guy's butt, fight's over. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I do with the
That's a
retics.
wrap.
They're trying to eat you. You know what I mean? Chew on their tail. They're like, whoa, what just touched me down there? You're in a bar fight, you know, guys busting your face against the bar. You stick your thumb up his butt, and all of a sudden he's crying in the corner. Just wants to go home to his mom. You know what I mean? The whole thing changes.
Follow it up by pulling your pants down, and he's like, I gotta get out of here. And it's just,
Honey
it's a
Badger
wrap.
don't.
You automatically
Super Dwarf
won.
don't care. Super Dwarf don't care.
You need a T-shirt that says that Super Dwarf don't care.
I might have to
Face
work
of
on
a
that.
tick
I might have
across
to
it.
work
That'd
on
be
that.
awesome.
There you go.
Hell yeah.
No, but I think the progression was like originally all those old school retics, for those of us that kept them like pre-90s, there was no captive bred retics. It was all wild caught stuff, and they were usually quite awful, you know, especially because when you get them in, you're like, okay, let's take this 16-foot retic and treat it for worms. That'll be fun. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. You know, the kind of stuff that people don't really think about happening. And that was how I got my start with retics. And then as the captive bred thing came in, people realized these are just big, mushy teddy dogs. Teddy bears, puppy dogs, teddy dogs, whatever you like to sleep with at night. Yeah, puppy bears. That sounds like another good animal to shrink down for the pet trade. That would be a good one.
Terrifying.
Puppy bears. Yeah. So, but
Rob
anyways,
would have 20.
there you go. Yeah, puppy bears. You got to get some. I've got the polar ones. But
man,
wouldn't that be cool? Little tiny polar bears run around, you know?
No.
I think it'd be badass. Rob
Come on
already
now.
doesn't like
Mammals.
dogs.
Mammals are too much for me.
Yeah. Well, like we already know, they're always too much for me. But yeah, once they were tame, all the guys that were pretending to be hard got them, and they're like, "Look at my big snake," you know what I mean? Really, I mean, retics are like they're you know, they'll leave you. They're fine. You know what I'm saying? You get a captive bred retic, you raise it up. It's totally fine. It's not, and it's really not. outside of its feed response, they're not an intimidating animal once you understand them, because they're very communicative. They work with you. If they're having a bad day, which they do, they'll tell you. They're not like a green anaconda that's like, I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. No, they're just like, hey, don't touch me. And this is how I feel. So they're pretty easy to work with. But I think all those guys, they had to get them because they could never have them before because they were like big, scary guys, but they're actually chicken when it came to the big retics. Then they got them. They looked tough for a while. They, the whole culture had to go through that. Like, retics are big. Look at me. I'm so cool. Why would you want to have a super dwarf? Why would you want a retic if it's not going to be big? And I think everybody's over that. Like, everyone knows they're nice. Nobody looks hard from having a giant retic anymore. In fact, most of the time you have a giant retic, you're basically falling prey to all of the 13-year-old keyboard warriors that are like, your cage isn't big enough. And it doesn't matter how big a cage you have. They're going to say it.
Doesn't matter.
And so that you just get followed around by little kids being like, you're not enough. You're not enough of a man. You say you love snakes, but I don't. You put that thing, And I mean, I'm not saying they're even wrong. I'm just saying that's what it's like these days, Yeah. But now I think people are finally able to see that the animals are like. I mean, I Jeremy, you have retics. Rob, not so much. They're cool animals.
I got one.
They are really cool.
Well, and people get one, they fall in love with it as a baby. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2 months old. It's not giant yet. And you're just like, wow, this is such a cool snake to have. I love it. And then they grow to these gargantuan sizes and they become too much to take care of again, But if you could keep them small, I mean, like a retic that's 5 feet is 1,000 times cooler to me than a corn snake that's the same size. That's 5 feet or whatever, because it's just got so much more going on upstairs. So I don't know. They're, the people that liked them, they always liked them. A big part of the thing too was like in the 90s on the coattail. I'm still choking up that coronavirus. It's a good thing this is remote. I think I got it from you guys anyways. No, just kidding.
I mean, we were in a small room together for a few hours. So.
I don't have coronavirus for everyone that's worried about it. I just inhaled my drink. But during the 90s, as retics were being bred, nobody even looked at the localities, because they were all one species, which is kind of silly because they cover like 17,000 islands, almost from India to Australia. They're not all going to look the same with a range like that. Look at boas, how diverse they are, But B, it was all about the morphs. And so super dwarfs just kind of became, especially with that name, dwarf and super dwarf, it almost sounds like pastel and super pastel or whatever.
Yeah.
So they just kind of became like one more variety that you can get them in. But any morph super dwarfs, a lot of people don't understand. Those are crosses. Those are from islands crossed into into the stuff, because with the one exception being Anery, I think is the only morph that has been like maintained pure dwarf or super dwarf from the beginning. Everything else, and even Anery is mostly crossed out. It's like find a unicorn to find a pure one. But everything got crossed out and almost lost, So, especially when that when the ban came through, disallowing any importation of retics anymore, and we couldn't get these
out their whole collections and shit. Is crazy.
Everybody that had them for money just panicked and sold everything, and all of those animals. I mean, do you remember how popular berms were in 2010? They were like, you could get them for like $25. Everyone's trying to give them away, accidentally breeding them all the time, and then and then after the ban, everyone got rid of them all. They were dumping them. Absolutely dumping them. And then it was like a couple years later, like, you can keep it again. And everyone's like, oh, you know what I miss is my berm. I've probably got rid of them all prematurely. I'd like to go get one. And now no one has them. And I was amazed. I was really sad actually to see people had thousands, tens of thousands of Burmese. And after like a couple years of, during the US our fight for trying to make sure that they'd be legalized, where did they all go? I think they all died. I think they all died because they all became undesirable. Yeah. And the second a reptile is undesirable, people set it aside, and that's sad to me. That's very, so.
Yeah. It was ridiculous because you'd see these people who had giant berm collections that they've been building for 20 years or, like 10, 15 years. And then as soon as that ban went through, they were just like, get rid of I don't care where it goes, just get it out of here. And then, when they became legal again, there was a lot of people looking to get back into breeding berms, but just finding them, like any
of them, right,
was ridiculous.
And before the ban, you could get a 4-gene homozygous berm. They weren't common, but they weren't even expensive.
Yeah,
it was like $500 if you want an albino green labyrinth granite. You could get them for like $500, $700,
$600. Yeah.
And now if you get an albino green, it's that much. And people had to build up. Yeah, people had to build them back up from nothing.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like when I got my my labyrinth male, like the price tag, I think it was like around $1,000, and I was like, for a berm?
Yeah.
This is post ban.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because my first labyrinth was $5,000. It was albino though, but that was way pre-ban. That was old school. Yeah. I love the labyrinths. I thought they looked crazy. Oh my gosh, when the first hypo labyrinths hit, I was like, this has got to be the coolest. So I'm not a berm guy. I do like pretty much all animals. Berms are just about the most boring python to me, though, honestly.
They are.
Yeah. Well, and it coupled with like how sensitive they are to diseases and stuff. I just and their skin is just saggy. They're just blobs. And there's I don't put any kind of reptile down because there is a reptile for everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you're like a weird, wheezy blob, berms are probably perfect for you. Actually, Rob, I was listening, right? I mean, the thing about pet owners looking like their pets. So I was actually listening to the podcast you guys put out. For me, it was last week. Probably won't be by this recording now. But I just got back from a 2-day road trip. So I'm exhausted. My voice is shot, everything. Yeah, right. Welcome to the podcast. But but I listened to your last podcast and you guys had me rolling because Rob, you were talking about what was it like? Oh gosh, it was like the retic people that are like, I'm all big and jacked and like, look at me. And then you're like over here,
like, get out of here.
Yeah. And then over here we have like the frog people that are like a little bit cold and clammy, kind of dweeby.
Quiet, yeah.
The arachnid guys are like freaks, super freaks.
Super fucking
Scorpions
weird.
are even super weird. And then you have like the bearded dragon crowd that are like, hi, I'm just bobbing at you and look at me. I have a cute shirt on, or whatever. And that's bearded dragon owners. And then you actually brought my name up. You were like, and then there's Garrett, kind of in his own category here by himself. And you had me rolling until that point where I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? You literally like called out every segment of the reptile industry. And then you were like, and then there's Super Dwarves with Garrett. And it's just
Garrett
Hartle by name over here by himself. All being Super Dwarf.
Called marketing. You got your
Super
own
Dwarf
group.
Don't care. Yeah, thanks for the shout out.
Right.
I guess.
That's
The
right.
name Garrett Hartle synonymous. What did you say? He's like, he's all wiggly and small or
He's all
something.
wiggly and he's
Like,
small. He's got,
is that a fat joke?
He's got people that he's got people that really like him, and the people who like him like really like him.
And everyone else is like, I don't get it.
See, you understand. Come on now.
Well, it's an evolution. You guys will get there someday too.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I don't know about that. I'm
Actually, honestly, Rob, I think you would like them because retics are cool, but if you do get in, because I'm not just a Super Dwarf guy, I really like localities. The only thing that's cool about Super Dwarves is like it's so much easier to have 100 of them. I don't know how many I have in that room right behind me, but this is like a little room in my basement. I've got a couple hundred retics. If those were mainlands, it would be insane.
Yeah.
But I have 7 different dwarf and super dwarf localities that we work with, and then 4 or 5 more mainland localities that I work with. And I don't sell those or anything. I just keep them for me.
Yeah.
But I love all the different, localities of them. And so, Rob, you're big into the scrubs. I love scrubs. And before I decided to just do super dwarfs, scrubs were my last holdout. And the thing they shared in common was this. You said, you're surprised nobody like kind of took super dwarfs or whatever. But I started working with them because I love the animals. I can't believe people can't see the value in them for what they are. It's like you either have to slap some fancy marketing on them, or you gotta, you know, make a cool morph to get somebody's attention. And you're like, oh my gosh, have you ever just like sat down with a pure Jampea? They're fantastic. They're amazing animals. And the scrubs are actually in a very similar vein, where they're super arboreal, but they're very like visually oriented. They're constantly thinking. A lot of people don't get them. You know, like a scrub python, it's not something that you don't just buy it like a bearded dragon, be like, look, I have a relationship with it because it's a little moron. You got to earn that. And the super dwarves are like that too. Like retics are super cool, but they're just the size of them and the strength of them. It actually kind of like, I don't know, it slows them down a little bit. You're not really like, they're a pretty easy animal. I would still maintain, I don't know if this is like okay to say because you guys work with Nerd or whatever, but I would maintain that a retic is a potentially dangerous animal, as in, you know, I don't think it's probably going to kill you. I suppose it could, but it has happened, but it's very rare. But yeah, it could hurt you. It could hurt you. It could be unpleasant. You know, and scrubs too. Oh my goodness. Like I got a love tap on the face from one of my scrubs. It actually was video recorded because I was filming the scrub and talking to somebody, and it just like whoosh, like this, and it kind of like raked my cheek with its teeth. And I was joking around about it. Somebody got a hold of it because I texted my friend who was always like, I don't understand why your scrubs don't bite you. Mine always bite me. And I was like, it's because you're a loser or something, you know, like they sense that, you know, some snakes sense fear, scrubs sense loserism, and they just go for it. They just go for it. And that's what I always told him. And I would jag him with it all the time. But this one got me good. It like, you know, it's kind of shredded my face. I texted him the picture. He put it online. And I didn't see it till the next morning. I was like, no, you can't post bite pictures online. And this was a truly spectacular, like you could see little sprinkles of flesh on my shirt. And this thing just love tapped me. You know what I mean? It was, so they're gnarly, but here's the thing. When you sit down and you have like a moment with a gorgeous bar neck scrub or something, and you earned its trust and you're chilling with it. And most people like, I'm telling you, all my big bad, you know, retic buddies are like, dude, Garrett's a freaking boss. Look at him with this. Because I laughed it off. You know what I mean? But like, you know, I mean, it was a pretty good bite, but it's still at the end of the day, it's a snake bite. It's not. I mean, people, you know, if you really want to get hurt by animals, keep a dog or a horse. Like I grew up with.
I was gonna say, you got my horse.
Yeah, I have nothing to show for all the crocodilians, venomous, you know, reptiles, big reptiles. Not really anything to show for it. Horses and dogs, couple of years, they'll push you through the paces. But that was so scrubs. I mean, I love them, and the super dwarves are wired like a scrub. They're just that much more arboreal. They're just that much more intense. They're that much more curious. You know, I think they are. I think they enjoy handling more than a scrub in general.
Probably most scrubs are like, I'll tolerate you for
right. So a super dwarf, though, they're long, they're lean, they're scrub-ish in size. You know, like a big dwarf retic is going to be like maybe 13 feet or something if you get one from us, and then the small super dwarves are maybe like 7 feet or something. So kind of like the smaller scrubs, but they're like a scrub that enjoys being handled. You know, so oh my gosh, it's just the best of everything. You know, they're still super cool. You know, you've got I love the locality stuff because there's like a connection to an actual geographical part of the world. You know what I mean? And then the connection you can have with your animal. Like the worst thing for me, I had a video of this on my YouTube channel. I like, you know how retics, you guys work with them. You know how retics, like they don't like when you take their eggs away. Those are their babies. They will die defending their babies if they need to. And my sweet retics are great. They trust me, and I can go in and pull eggs pretty easily. But what I'm saying is, like, those mothers, they are very good mothers. People don't understand that. They don't think a reptile can be like that. Retic mothers are like, man, they're better than a lot of human mothers, you know? and I had this clutch, and she laid, and she wasn't in the best health when she laid, and the eggshells were kind of thin, and they was just laid up on this shelf behind this thing, and as I pulled it, there was like eggs that were bursting, and so the snake was wrapped around it, and I'm trying to pull her out, off of this shelf where her nest box was, and there was just like egg goo going, and this poor girl, she was not defensive, she was not striking against me, she was panicked, she was traumatized, she was terrified. And it was like, I'm just like, oh, baby, and I'm being traumatized too. Every time I feel an egg just go, I'm like, oh, my heart's in my stomach. And, like, oh, no, I killed one. You know what I mean? You just feel awful. And I knew that she was right there with me. And as traumatic as an experience it was crazy to go through that with an animal that most people think just wants to kill you or is completely instinctual. And so I think if you can earn that connection with a scrub or a retic, there's a lot to that. That's the stuff of life. I mean, when you have an animal like that kind of trust you with its life and want to spend time with you and share that space with you and stuff, and it's something like a snake that's so misunderstood, when you really get it, I mean, I think probably 90% of the people that keep these snakes, they still don't get it.
Yeah.
They're collecting animals, but when you really get that kind of experience, man, there's nothing like that's life. That's the stuff that life is made of. And even the bad moments, like that was a terrible moment, but it was a good experience. It gives me I'm actually maternally incubating a clutch this year for the first time because
I was going to ask you how that's going.
Yeah, it's cool. I've done it before, way back in the day, but maternal incubation was more like, we don't know what the hell we're doing. So just kind of like, oh crap, there's eggs. That's weird. And then you just try to figure out what to do for 3 months. And you're like, oh, there's babies now.
Oh crap.
Wow.
Hey, I see heads.
Yeah. And that's it.
Did that
but
like 2 years ago.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah,
so I've always wanted to do a retics, but I was just chicken, Yeah, I feel like I have to be in control or something, like, which is stupid. I mean, the snakes know what they're doing. So no, it's going really good. It's I don't even know how many eggs are in there. I don't know if there's a moldy one, if they're all going good or bad.
Don't even worry about it. Literally,
all
when we
that
did
control
ours,
stuff, it just, you don't know. Just
Yeah,
mom doing her thing. But you got to think like, okay, so for retics, we all know like food is everything for a retic until you manage to keep them through an entire life cycle. And then you realize like their breeding cycle, like food and reproduction are the strongest drives they have.
Yeah, for sure.
And when you take that reproduction side, and we're talking about how vehemently, they protect their babies and how intense they are about it. And they're wired for that kind of protection and motherly instinct. And you deny them that, yeah, it's you're taking a lot away from them.
Yeah,
because it's not something they do all the time, but it's incredibly strong when they do.
Yeah.
And so I've never wanted to take that away from my females, but I'm like, but I'm a snake breeder and I'm afraid, and I want to, just put all the eggs in a nice row in the incubator and put them in and know exactly what's going on. But that egg bursting experience, when that happened, I said, you know what? I'm going to revamp everything I do with incubation. I'm going to have a totally different style for artificial incubation, which I've shared on YouTube and a lot of philosophies on that stuff. But the big thing that I've been doing, which I don't think a lot of people realize about why I'm doing that, was just to prepare myself for mass maternal incubation. Rather, I would rather let all those girls, because it's not as much about the babies, it's about the moms. And I want them to go through that at least once in their life, every time if they can. For the experience of it. So it's cool.
Thing was when our female, when the babies started to hatch, like as soon as the first one like you get that tight beehive when they lay the eggs, and everything's all piled up, and she's all sitting on head on top and everything, and you'll see her twitching and making a little bit of heat there to adjust the temperature. You'll see her lifting her coils to adjust for humidity and everything. But as soon as the first head sliced through the egg, it's like she just relaxed, and she just came down along the sides, and you'd see a couple heads sticking out, and she wouldn't be tight on the coil of eggs anymore. She was just barely wrapped around it. And then as soon as there was like 5 or 6 heads poking out, she just like completely let go and just was like, okay, my job here is done.
How do they how do they know that? Like, if
How
you
do you
squeeze,
know? It's so
once they're
great.
pipped and you squeeze, now you're gonna squeeze out all the goo and the baby's gonna die. You know what I
And
mean?
what's
Like,
crazy, the goo when the baby sliced through, so like as a baby is pipping, when it slices through and it's in there and moving around in the egg, the albumin from the egg comes out and it'll go down around the edges of the egg, and you're thinking, oh man, that's gonna get all over the other eggs, might drown some babies. Whatever's in that albumin was what was separating the eggs. So as the top babies are hatching and the eggs are coming
it's like
off,
melting off.
it's melting the glue so that the babies underneath can
Whoa.
come out. It was crazy.
So I've done a
Absolutely
couple
crazy.
things on our Instagram with that glue. I'm like, this stuff is amazing. It's got to be like 10 times better than spider silk, and they engineer spider silk for like lightweight strength material stuff. Engineering that they do with that stuff is crazy. I'm like, man, they really need to look at this.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy and it's amazing how it's made. I don't know, like we've had females that had problems laying before. We've had to like manually avert the eggs to try to save the females, and they don't get it. Something magical happens when they lay the eggs the way they're supposed to, that there's this thin slime around the egg that then solidifies into spider web like substance. And you're saying the albumin, when they're cut, because that was always a question, because sometimes these eggs, what they do is they pile them up. They're not supposed to roll. Yeah. So they pile them up and then they wrap around them. And the way they're glued together ensures that the mother can move and adjust and stuff without killing those embryos.
Exactly.
And you're telling me that the albumin actually releases
so
the hold that glue has.
Yeah. As the top babies started to come out, it would make the eggs below kind of wet, and they would just like push the top eggs off. We had, I think, 1 or 2 babies at the very bottom of the pile that didn't end up making it out because it was it was a huge clutch. It was like 40 something, 50 babies or something.
This girl's tiny. She's like, she probably weighs like 2,500 grams. I think. I don't know. I didn't count, but I'd guess probably a dozen eggs or something in there. So pretty small pile.
So I think that's the only reason that those babies at the bottom didn't make it out, was just because there was so many eggs on top of them. But we had like a 97, 98% hatch rate with that. Like almost every single egg hatched.
It's crazy.
And it was very interesting because it was part by choice, because I had talked to Kevin that season about maternally incubating, and then it was part by circumstance because we had so many eggs in our incubator.
Our incubators
we ran out of space. We had 4 full-size incubators running at full tilt, and we still didn't have enough room when that female had laid. And I was like, Kevin, this is our opportunity I think it would make a cool video for when the babies do start to hatch. And then also, I just want to see a bigger tick maternally incubate. I just think that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting because
that's pretty similar to what happened with us. We were actually at Nerd when she laid. That's when this girl laid.
I remember the phone call you got.
And her eggs were stacked up. Like basically I have some shelf systems in there so that they can, perch arboreally and stuff. And so they stacked all the way up to the top. So they were like wedged between the bottom, the bottom layer of the shelf and the top of the cage. And she wrapped around them like that. And that shelf has a little lip on the front, and we couldn't pull the nest box because if you lift it up on it, you'd pop that top egg or squish it or whatever. So we're like, how do we get this? We're going to have to, I was thinking we're going to have to get a saw and we're going to cut the shelf out. You know what I mean? Rebuild it later.
He was going all in there.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is like, if they're stacked that high, they're not going to fit in an egg box because it's been 2 days that she's been on it.
Right.
And that spider web stuff we're talking about, it can pull apart if you pull them within, you get the eggs from the mom within the first 12, 24 hours maybe. But 2 days later, you're not getting that apart.
Tough, yeah.
That stuff that's why I'm surprised you say with the albumin, because, that stuff is so strong that if you try to pull an egg off that pile, you will tear open an egg before it comes apart. So it's crazy stuff. I love it, so
it's very interesting. And, if we had not done that, I never would have known that was how that kind of worked.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know it. Yeah. Until he told me, hey, we'll learn something new every day.
There you go. Hey, it's not a wasted
not
day.
a wasted day. That's what I always say. You learn one new thing in the day. It's not a wasted day.
Yeah. So I want to know what's your guys' opinion of it, because I eat, sleep, and breathe Super Dwarves and reach out reptiles, and it's ridiculous. I push too hard. But what's your guys' opinion of Super Dwarves and as animals, and then like the market on them and kind of where it's going? What do you guys think about that?
I think Super Dwarfs. I mean, they fill that niche part of the retic market for sure, especially as the popularity grows. You get a lot of people that show interest, but not a lot of people that can, of course, house a 15+ foot snake. So you try to see like, oh, well, these come smaller. I've heard the term dwarf, thrown around. So I feel like there's a niche that they can satisfy, but I also feel that because there's really no morphs thrown into the ring as far as the super dwarf market goes. People want they want the bright yellow retic, and you're like, well, I need 10 more years before I can like make enough of those to be willing to sell that are small enough. So and I think part of that just comes from, like, we've talked about this a bunch, like when you look at the social media trends in the industry as a whole, the stuff that gets fed to just about everybody is be a breeder, make these really cool looking animals that have these crazy colors, and so it almost takes away from just having an animal because it's awesome. The snake itself is awesome. And I feel like a lot of the lesser kept species, or just lesser kept subgroups, like super dwarf retics and stuff, kind of just fall to the wayside a little bit, and nobody really wants to invest that time because they're like, it's a normal looking snake. It's a gray snake with some yellow on it, or whatever, because they just glaze over it. But I do think as more people are getting invested in it, it's just like anything else. As more people think like, oh man, actually that is kind of cool, that attention comes to it. And I mean, Rob and I have talked before, like, what you personally have done with super dwarfs, at the very least, the amount of attention that you've brought into super dwarf reticulated pythons has, I think, played a massive role on just the overall understanding of what they are like, and their value and importance in the industry, and just how badass they are. So I think there's a lot more work to be done, but having that spotlight actually thrown on them gives them a little bit more validity to the unknowing person, and then to those people who are aware, maybe seeing them a little bit more is actually getting those wheels turning and being like, oh yeah, you know what, maybe that would be a cool project to invest myself in or learn a little bit more about.
Interesting. Okay. I like that. Actually, your perspective is very similar to somebody had asked Brian Barczyk on his podcast recently what his viewpoint on super dwarves were. And I think the way they pose the question is like, are super dwarves the next big thing in the industry or what? and he actually answered somewhat similarly to yours, just about the colors and temperaments, not having the mainland colors and temperaments, and then lots of work to be done. And he kind of took that. He basically said, they have potential, but you would have to do so much to get to realize it fully. What do you think, Rob? Because you were kind of sitting there going like, nah, Jeremy, you're full of crap, but in the back.
No. Just there's
that's why we make such a good team.
Yeah,
because
that's why I gotta ask you both. Yeah.
There goes my mic.
There you go. That's it.
I feel like I'm a little bit on the outside of like.
That's why I'm asking you. Because you guys aren't like super dwarf fanboys or anything like that. I want to know what you guys think from the outside.
The one retic that I've got is a super dwarf, a 57 point whatever % super dwarf.
Cool.
Tiger, Anery tiger. And so the way that I look at it, I feel like it should be swapped with mainlands. I feel like the super dwarfs should be, when people go and think about, I want to get a retic, they should not think about mainland retics, because the average person, I just feel like, is not willing to invest the amount of time, mental space, energy, actual physical space to do them justice. Like I feel like, I'm going to go on the high side and say that like 80% of people who keep retics in the United States don't keep them well enough. Like,
you think that's the high side? I think you'd have to defend how they really truly should be kept.
Yeah.
I would say it's higher than that.
Probably. I'm going to go from a place of
No, that's
I'm
okay.
not.
I mean, it's
Don't
an
wanna throw
arguable
people under the
point. You have
bus.
to, you gotta have to
Yeah.
define what's good for the animal. But go ahead.
Yeah. And honestly, when people talk about they want a retic, I would much rather see people get a super dwarf or a dwarf than go out and get the the mainland just because it's got pretty colors. And it's like, yeah, it might have pretty colors, but are you going to give this animal a good life for its whole life? Are you going to make sure that it's getting mental exercise and physical exercise and all this, that, and the other thing? And I feel like the super dwarfs, it's much easier for someone who's interested in them to give them that thing that they need and that they deserve, as opposed to mainland, where most people are going to be like, oh, an 8-foot cage, cool, that's awesome. And like I feel like that just does such a disservice to the species as a whole, because like I'm not a retic guy, but I still think that retics should be kept like well, and like
They're
much
a
bigger
tops.
than
They're like a bucket list animal. You know what I
yeah.
mean? It
And
would be
even
like
then,
if you
like
dreamed your whole life of having a tiger, and then you're like, I want to keep it in a dog kennel, dog crate its whole
or
life, and
in
try
your
to not feed it
garage,
so it
like
doesn't get very big. Like why
yeah,
why
Yeah.
why
What's the point?
yeah, what's the
yeah
point?
no.
So I feel like right now, where we're at right now, like right now 2021
Mhm.
in the reptile hobby, with how people view super dwarfs at the moment and how people view mainland retics at the moment, I feel like the people who are kind of taking the time to understand them, like the people who follow you, Garrett, I'll give them this: they take a lot of time to understand the animals that they're getting from you. They put in a lot of research. They don't just go, oh, little retic, I'm buying it. And most of the time, at least from what I'm seeing from people
They're
who I
super
see
picky
online.
too. The animal has to hold up.
Exactly.
You know
So
what I mean?
what
If they say I
they're
don't want
putting
something that gets
yeah,
over 10 feet, and then I sell them something that gets 12 feet, they're pissed.
yeah,
You know
Yeah.
what I
yeah.
mean? So yeah, it has to hold up. But anyway, go ahead.
No, just the people are putting in the time and research that I feel like they deserve. And when people buy a mainland retic right now, 2021, what is it? We're February now.
Yeah.
Most people who buy a mainland retic is just like, oh, it's got pretty colors, cool, I'm gonna get it. Oh, it's a cow. Oh, it's an albino. Oh, it's a golden child. They don't really think about the like
The
the
bigger picture
macro
of it, yeah.
picture of what's going on with
Mhm.
getting that animal. And to me, I'm just like, that kind of bums me out. And seeing like so many people just get like, they get one retic when it's little and they're like, I love this thing, and then they get 12 more, and I'm like, okay, first off, you're not thinking about where 12 more adult reticulated pythons are going to go.
That's a big one too, because if you get one retic and it's going to get big, and then you're like, okay, I knew it was going to get big, but holy crap, this is big, because about 9 foot is where people start dumping them in rescues,
Yep.
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
9-10 foot, they're like, geez, it's 2 years old. This is going to keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's getting hard to handle, right? If it gets over that size, and they start
Yeah.
dumping it. But before it gets that size, like within the first year, I think, now understand, like, so I used to work at Prehistoric Pets, and then I bred retics before I worked there. And I have sold, especially through Prehistoric Pets, probably tens of thousands of like over 10,000. We'll say that retics, lots of mainland retics.
Mhm.
And a lot of people that go into their first retic, they want to make sure that, yeah, I mean, not everyone, but most people that are decent human beings, go in there and they want to do a good job. They're a little bit intimidated. They have a little bit of fear of the unknown, and they ask you a lot of questions, and they do a lot of research. Unfortunately, they're not educated and they're experienced. So a lot of times they're asking the wrong questions. Am I right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But at least they're asking questions. Then they get that snake 2-3 months. They feel comfortable. They come back, and it's like, boom, 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 boom. I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. And their first retic's not even a year old yet.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's like, do you understand what it would take even to minimally house 12 retics?
Yeah.
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 And everyone has great
Small house.
intentions. Everyone has great intentions, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to part of like what I was saying, where because especially now so much of the industry is portrayed as look at this really cool, colorful snake. Like you can breed this and make more and make other snakes with really cool, fancy colors. You get those people that are just like, especially when you think that retics comparatively are not that expensive. You can get some really pretty
No.
retics
people
for
get
not a lot of
upset.
money.
People get upset because at Nerd, even for normals, I start at like usually $200 and go up from there. And people are like, "Well, I can get a normal retic for $75," and I'm like, "Not from us, you won't, because the person
no,
who's
you
gonna
can
spend
you can go get them
$75
for
on it-
free.
Yeah,
Go build a cage. You can get adults for free any day of the week.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that like it gets people into that part where they're just like, oh, okay, I got one. Okay, now like you were saying, I feel a little more comfortable with it. I really like this animal, whatever.
And they're such great animals. They're such great animals, you know.
And they're like, oh, there's a really cool like albino. I don't have an albino. I need that. It's only $150. Yeah, let me grab that really quick because it's really pretty. And I think that's where one of the biggest problems is, because it's like, oh, well, I can just get all these really cool, pretty snakes, and there's no thought of the future,
right?
Even as you were just saying, like minimal housing requirements. Think about what that is.
Let me. So this has been an evolution for me too. I continue to learn. I try not to be judgmental of anybody, but let's think this through for a second. One of the cool things about the reptile trade is that it used to be thought where reptiles and fish were like disposable animals. Kind of, you think like if your kid's goldfish dies, you try to run to Petco and grab another one that looks just like it and drop it in there, so you don't have to have the death talk with your little kid today because you can't handle it. And reptiles were like that. People would they didn't want to spend as much money on the enclosure as the animal. And when you had to have green iguanas that were $5, or you could win a baby American alligator at the fair when, throwing a golf ball into a cup or something like that. Do you know what it takes to house an American alligator? But the guy at the fair told me it won't outgrow this 10-gallon if that's what I keep it in. But these guys are trying to sell you the 10-gallon. You won the alligator, now buy the tank, because that's where I make money, because the alligators are, let's be honest, let's basically free, So that's kind of the problem with the retics. And Rob, you were saying that it's flipped. So if I might offer a little bit of insight, just having been on both worlds, because you guys saw me at Nerd. I love retics. I love scrubs. I love bloods. I love the short tail pythons. I love all of it. I love ball pythons. I love, no, I do. I think ball pythons are amazing. I probably wouldn't keep like species wise as a pet. They're not as interesting to me, but oh my gosh, my favorite thing to do every time I go to a reptile show, because I don't go to a lot of them, but when I go to a reptile show, I don't go look for all weird, obscure things, because I've seen the Shinosaurus, but what I want to see is the new ball pythons, because you give that market 6 months and then you walk through and there's so many like
brand new,
holy crap moments. Well, some of it is like that animal. I almost bought one at the last show for $5,000 and it's $200 now. So there's that holy crap, which I'm not invested. So that might make a lot of people feel a certain way, but to me, that's just really interesting. The other side of it is like the people who geek out. Kevin is a perfect example on what the genes actually do, and then they use them to paint these new things naturally and genetically. It's incredible. In fact, I take a lot of my inspiration for my retic projects from ball pythons, because they're just light years. The retic guys are knuckle draggers, So if I might offer some insight, first of all, Jeremy, you were saying like, oh, there's this retic niche, and I think it's, the super dwarf niche of the retic world is small. I don't see it that way at all. In fact, I almost never sell super dwarfs to retic guys. The guys that really love retics, they want to be able to feed their snake a deer from the side of the road. That's their thing. You know what I mean? They don't care about super dwarfs. And if they get into super dwarfs, they do it for the wrong reasons. It's because they're breeding the crap out of their mainlands and they can't sell all the babies because the market is not as big. And then when they get this letdown moment where they're like, I finally made this new morph that I've dreamed of for 4 years, and I did all the painstaking work, and I made the first whatever morph, and then they present their babies to the public and they go, look at this fantastic animal. I've lived, sweat, bled, cried with its mom and dad over these generations, picked out my double hets, put them back together, did all this stuff. And then to have someone come and like basically spit in the face of that animal and say, does it come in dwarf? Do you have any dwarves? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those are the people that get into it, and that's sad because that's kind of like the people. Like, I've got nothing against ball python breeders, but if you're breeding ball pythons because you think you have to because it's like the staple mainstream, get rid of those things. Do yourselves a favor. You know what I mean? Just go get a side job delivering the paper or something. I don't do something else you hate. You know what I mean? Why would you bring an animal into that? If you don't like them, don't touch them. Get away from that.
Yeah.
You know, don't do that because you think you have to. If you love savu pythons, go make the best damn savus in the world. And we're seeing that now. White lips, savus, ring pythons, things that were like $100 or whatever in the 90s that nobody cared about because they existed. Now they don't. And people are like just really getting into that stuff. It's super cool to see all these niche things popping up. But the super dwarf, the people who buy the super dwarfs, a lot of them are carpet python guys, ball python guys. You know what I mean? The big industries where these people, they love a snake around that size. Because I certainly have retics that are ball python size. I have retics that are carpet python size, and I have retics that are boa size.
Boa conda.
Yeah, well, go make some. But
boa.
yeah, boa pythons would be way cooler. I just want to see how they're born. But
IBD, that's just
yeah. Ooh, yeah. Okay. Rob with his like hybrid hate over here.
Dark humor.
Yeah. But
I got you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
There
So
we go.
that is what's cool about the super dwarfs is that the snakes are the same. They're all retics, but you know, like with ball pythons, you breed for color, you breed for pattern. Now you have this weird, like, okay, scalelessness that's adding, and that's like a little bit too far for people, sometimes controversial. People love it, people hate it, whatever. But you're pushing outside of those two dimensions of pattern and color. But super dwarfs have been outside of those dimensions all along. Color, pattern, size. That's what matters. That's what dictates price. That's what dictates desirability. You know, so let me educate you a little bit, and hopefully, you know, I'm sure Brian Barczyk listens to all your guys' podcasts, so he can hear this too, because I'll answer his question at the same time as yours, Jeremy. You know, you're talking about the colorful animals are not available in the retics. They do take a long time. They do. Oh my gosh, do they take a long time?
Yeah.
And I've been doing it for 20 years. So talk amongst yourselves. You guys have YouTube now. So I'm going to show you something on camera, and your listeners are just going to have to deal with it. But your oohs and ahs will tell them all how to feel as soon as I get back. I'll be right back.
I'm pretty sure I already know which snake you're going to grab. So yeah.
Which one do you think I'm going to grab?
That freak that you hatched out this year?
No, she's cool. But
She's
no,
cool
I'm going to
as
grab
fuck.
I'm going to grab an adult breeder female with a
Okay.
crazy morph, and I'm going to
Okay.
show you what I can do. Okay.
All right,
So
cool.
talk amongst yourselves. I'll be
All
back.
Now, an ad break from your sponsors.
Oh,
This
God.
is Rob is Creeping It Real and Jeremy Turgeon from Brassman Reptiles.
Hello.
And if you are enjoying this episode right now, you should go check out our OnlyFans.
You should.
OnlyFans.com/Reptile Talk. And I actually took some more pictures and videos to post on there. So I'm pretty excited.
Okay.
Oh, wow. That was quick.
I can't hear you.
That's quick.
Because if I put these on, she'll pull them off. We'll see what
Yep.
happens. Ugh. Okay, here we go.
I got to pull them off.
Okay. This is 6 generations of albino breeding to super dwarfs. 6 generations. It's a visual recessive. So if you think every time you go back to super dwarf, you lose all those genetics, you got to bring it back together. I mean, this female laid eggs about 2 months ago.
How old is she?
She's about 5 years old, maybe. Yeah, 5 years old.
Nice.
So now this snake, I would say, is a carpet python size animal.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Right?
Easily.
Yeah, I mean, right in the middle. There's bigger carpets than this for sure. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Smaller ones also, but that's very comparable to a carpet. She's an albino 100% het snow.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Snows are double recessive, exceedingly rare. Yeah, she's totally bleached out on the camera here, but albino being recessive, I mean, it's easier to get there. 6 generations with a codom would be obscenely high percentage. This
Yeah.
girl is a visual albino, which is where the mainland is where the albino came from, but she only has 12.5% mainland left in her. You know what I mean? And that's recessive, right? So albino retics were some of the first morphs, and first into super dwarfs. So this is careful selective breeding over a long period of time. This female is about a 9.5-foot female, but she's a proven breeder coming off eggs, 15 egg clutch. That's about what they lay. You know what I mean? I'll show you a gravid female if you're talking about like pure locality, and we can get these sizes with incomplete dominance. So talk amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
So if you're very upset that you can't see any of these animals, you can also go to youtube.com/brassmanreptiles and check out the Reptile Talk playlist so you can actually see them.
I should have been narrating it as he went, because that's, for me, when I listen to podcasts, that's the most frustrating fucking thing in the world, is when they're like, look at this thing.
We would have it happen, and now Garrett is kicking it off with some bullshit.
Okay. Hopefully everyone's still having fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. This female is loaded with eggs. Now, this is just a couple feet shorter. That girl was about 9.5 feet. That other, the carpet python size one, very small female. This thing's tiny. Yeah. This is ball python to rat snake size. This is smaller than a lot of ball pythons.
It's like a large Antaracea size.
Yeah. And she's loaded with eggs. This is a reticulated python, guys, one of the largest species of snakes on the planet. And this is like ridiculously tiny. Now, I can get you a platinum this size. I can get you a tiger this size. I can get you platinum motley tigers, things like that. But no, I can't get you a calico cow golden child albino. I can't get you, not yet. So here's the thing. This is what's cool. The snakes are already cool. Let's remember this girl's just an anery. But she's phenomenal because she's a retic, and we love retic. Look at her. Look how good she is. She's so cute. This girl she's about the same age as the other one. 4 years old.
That's cool. That's cool.
I mean, like, she's loaded with, these are not young. I mean, they're younger, but they're not babies. These are full grown retics. I can show you breeder after breeder this size.
Yeah.
I can show you 10-year-old retics this size if you want. I could probably show you like 30-year-old retic this size, but I
just remember Jay posting a video of a female on eggs, and he's like, mainlands don't got to get big, and I was like, how old is that retic? That retic is 2 years old. Don't lie to the people. Come on now.
Or starved. Yeah. And that's the other thing. People think like Super Dwarfs stay small because they don't get food, or we restrict their food intake. I don't do any of that because I'm focused on the genetics. So if I could stunt its growth like an alligator in a 10-gallon aquarium, that's not interesting to me at all.
It's not
I feed. No, why would I even ask anyone to pay more money for that? So no, what I'm trying to do is like feed them prime nutrition, let them get as big as they want, and see what their genetics do, and work forward from there.
Exactly.
So let me show you what's so cool about, you're like, oh, I want the crazy colors and all this stuff. I'm going to show you a morph. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves.
So I'm liking this a lot. Yeah. Because I have my perspective on this, and a lot of it's just because it's social media. Like, I don't follow Super Dwarfs much at all. So like some of the stuff I didn't even know was like available. So I actually really like getting this this lesson.
Yeah. So for the people on the audio, the last one that Garrett had brought out was probably the size of a large spotted python or something, maybe 4.5 feet. And not very big around, less than a Coke can.
So you get a load of that snake. That's a pretty cool snake.
That is a pretty cool snake.
Those of you guys that are listening on the podcast, you'll just have to check out Reach Out Reptiles on Instagram. Hey, all right.
There you go.
Do you want to guess the morph? Pretty cool. Look at, right? For your non-viewing listeners, how does she look? You guys spend all day with retics. What do you think?
Jeremy, well, now it's all washed out in the camera, but it looks like tiger platinum.
So it's pretty light colored. It's got a stripe down the dorsal. It's got like these little portholes.
Quality wise, though, you guys understand what a quality retic looks like, right?
Yeah.
Top notch, upper echelon. Okay. Yeah. And so you're mentioning tiger, platinum, maybe some other. Yeah. What else do you think would take to make a snake? It looks like the little Burger King helmets down the sides. Look at the little Burger King hats. Perfect dorsal stripe. Yeah. As Tara would say, broken head stripe.
Broken head stripe. Oh, terrible.
So this is a tiger. But what is so cool about Super Dwarves, this is a very unique locality blend of tiger. So she's 25% Jamp and 50% Madu. Madus are almost extinct in captivity now. They may be extinct in the wild as well. They were some of the first Super Dwarves ever imported. Many of the snakes that came in as Super Dwarves were actually Madus. They didn't even call them Madus back then. They called them Honey Islands because the island didn't
remember Honey
have
I
a
remember
name.
the Honey Islands. Yeah.
50% Honey Island, 25% Jam. So the islands didn't even have a name. So all the guys that like to be like, Garrett Hartle spells his localities wrong. I'm like, you show me the written language that they're in, and I'll tell you, I'll concede that I spell them wrong because it's all phonetic. You don't, if you can Google it on a map, that's cute, kids. But, I've been breeding these and working with these since before Google. So shut up. You know what I mean? Like Google doesn't get to pick how I call these things after 20 years. So anyway, Madu Island, aka Honey Island. This is just a tiger. So this to me represents what retic selective breeding should be all about. This female should be about 8 feet as an adult. She's ridiculously good quality. It's almost, people say she almost looks like a jag something all the time.
I was going to say that she looked almost like she has jag in her.
Yeah, except look, no wobble. In fact, she's completely healthy, outbred, diverse genetics, all this kind of stuff. And so my point,
listeners, there's no wobble because he's already holding it upside down.
No, that's a lie.
I had to. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, my point is like good, strong, healthy genetics, selectively bred, exquisite results. And this is a tiger. So for me, Rob, you're talking about everyone's like, oh, you got to breed. And this is not some double het, mocha, anthrax, posset, pied, whatever, that's not even valuable until you make babies. This is simply a tiger reimagined after 3 generations of selective breeding. Now I can show you tigers that look entirely different from her because I've taken that one simple incomplete dominant gene, 3 direct, generations in another direction.
Yeah.
But this is what it's about to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's about perfection and refining an idea, a thought that you have about the way retics should be, and it's classic and it's beautiful. And I defy you to find a tiger or any retic out there that looks this good. And if it was a platinum jag tiger retic, you know what I mean? In Super Dwarf, it would probably be a $10,000 snake.
Probably right around there.
Yeah, but in Super Dwarf, it would for sure. Because I mean, a mainland of that would be like $2,500, right? Yeah. So, So I mean, but this just being a tiger, if I hold stuff like this back, I grow them up and I breed them out, and I get whole clutches of these.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, people can have its simplicity, its beauty. It's almost a minimalist approach to keeping Super Dwarfs. And what I want, you like this look? Take that. You like the pure Karrampa look and that clean, pure locality tie to the island that they came from? Take one. You like an albino? There's an albino. And now I want you to set this thing up in a 12-foot by 8-foot tall, 4-foot deep jungle biodome in your living room. And I guarantee you that my life's work into making snakes like this will bring you joy every day of your life. Breed it, don't breed it, do whatever you want. This is an amazing, look at her temperament. She's phenomenal. She's a baby. She's very calm. She's just like any mainland, So I would say, Jeremy, Brian Barczyk, all those guys, the people who say, hey, they've got so long to go. You are right, but you may not understand how far we've come.
Yeah.
Because it's getting pretty freaking cool over here.
Yeah.
And that is why the market is exploding.
Yeah, Garrett, you need
to
to send me an invite so I can come hang.
Yeah, we need to come to the snake room.
Some badass stuff.
I told you when you guys left my podcast, you're welcome to come anytime. So
100%. We need to make that happen. Because
I
was just saying to Rob, dude, I want that. I fucking love that.
Now here's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying to Rob, when you were going to get that girl, I was like, I love this because I'm not like, I don't really follow Super Dwarfs much at all. So a lot of where my viewpoint comes from is just from what I'm seeing from other people, which is of course very limited because not many people are working with them. But like this is the kind of stuff where I'm like, oh man, yeah, there is some pretty badass
So-
stuff. The fact that that's just a tiger,
Yeah,
It's
that's
just a
pretty wild.
tiger.
Is
This is how far
ridiculous
you
to
can
me.
take tiger. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And wait until you see me put her to a pure Annery Madu. What that does, you know, you have an Annery tiger, Rob, but this one's gonna be cooler. You know what I mean? And here's the thing: like you guys work with Kevin, and Kevin he's amazing, you know, but he likes those. He has big retics. He has big water monitors. He's got crocodilians and stuff like that. Even the smallest crocodilians, they take a tremendous amount of effort and care, and they're not for everybody. And even these super dwarves, I say all the time, like, this is maybe not for you. People are like, can you guarantee me this is going to stay under 6 feet? And I'll tell you this, there are super dwarf breeders who would sell you one like that under that guise. And I say all the time, that tiny female that I showed you guys, she's over 6 feet. That animal's 6.5 feet. I would never guarantee you that. I would say if you need an animal that stays under 6 feet, you need to get a colubrid.
I say don't get her tick. Yeah.
You need a colubrid. You know, now maybe you don't understand how manageable a 6-foot retic is, because a 6-foot retic is closer in size to they're smaller than ball pythons. Most of the people that come to me that look like ball pythons, they get 4 or 5 feet long, something like that. I'd like to step up in size, but just a little, 6-7 feet maybe. And I go, okay, like, you know, your average 7-foot super dwarf retic is smaller than most of the ball pythons you have. Smaller, longer, but scrubs are the same way. How long is your bar neck scrub? She wasn't much bigger than that albino girl I pulled out.
No, she's probably 10 foot. Yeah.
Yeah, 10 feet. That's like 2 feet longer than my retic. My retics are long.
And
you know, but a
my
10-foot
scrub's not
scrub
done
is like, I mean, if you weigh her, she's the size of a big, you know, if you have a big Volta ball python or whatever, they weigh the same. It's just a different snake. You can't compare it.
Yeah.
You know, or you can get you have a lot of short tail pythons, Rob.
Yeah.
You know, the short tail pythons, those are big snakes. Those are pretty big. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, a 4-foot short tail python is big. Did you guys ever see that blood python that I had that was 8 foot 4 inches? I sold it to Forest Manning.
That
that monster.
I've seen that snake. Yeah.
8 foot 4 inches. She was over 70 pounds.
Jeez.
You know, lean, not. She's a monster. That's 8 foot 4 inches. That little albino I showed you, I'm like walking around, throwing around my neck like it's a ball python. That's longer than her.
Yep.
But that 8 foot 4 inch Bronger's Mai was the biggest snake I had in my. She was way bigger than my 13-foot retics.
It's probably one of the biggest blood pythons I've ever seen in my life. So
I posted her all the time, and everyone's always like, force perspective. So I had one where I laid down next to her. Like, no way, you know, like, and her head is going way beyond my head and tail way beyond my feet. And I'm like, that's not force perspective. It's like top down. She's longer than me.
So you need to see if you can find that picture and send it to us so we can post it on Instagram.
Yeah,
for the
100%.
Reptile Talk episode.
I'll have to pull it up. Yeah, I may only have the cool force perspective ones of her, where she looks like she's about to eat a German Shepherd or something. But anyway, this is what I'm talking about. Simple beauty. And what I am telling you is that the market is going this way. People are tired of the noise. If you can make a 4-gene, 5-gene, 6-gene recessive retic, but they all look like, you know, Kevin makes fun of Jay all the time, like, oh, all he makes is yellow bananas or whatever, but he's cranking all these cool things. You know what I'm saying? After a while, it just becomes noise. You know, and when you think about the prospect of doing, even if you just want to do a simple 2-gene recessive, I've done projects like that in mainlands, and I know what it takes. You know, and I don't think there's, like, people like to argue about sizes for adult retics, what kind of size cage you need. But let's just think about it this way. Would you think that a retic probably needs proportionately more size than something like a ball python? I mean, ball pythons are pretty much known to be like the laziest, most chill, kind of just sit in one place snake. So a retic, and they should have, even a retic of the same size as a ball python should have a cage that was proportionately larger because they're more active. You know what I mean? They're more in tune with their environment. They use different elements of it. If you put a 17-foot female retic in an 8x3-foot cage that's 14 inches tall, that is proportionately smaller than a ball python in the CB70.
Yeah.
But that's the industry standard.
Yep.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't understand the disconnect, because everyone that's saying, no, my retic is fine in this 8x3 foot, and I'm not trying to pick on these guys or anything. Like I get it, and like breeder situation and stuff, there's pressure for space. And I mean, what I'm trying to do is talk to the people who are thinking about getting into it and being like, hey, maybe I'll do a 2-gene project. I can't afford a Mochino anthrax, but I can get this one and I can get that one. I can breed them together and I can breed their babies together. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys, if somebody made a Mochino anthrax and you want it, go buy it.
Go buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
Just
make
buy it and have it and be done. Love on it. Buy a 20-foot shipping container for it and convert it into a cage, and you will have proportionately the same size as what, like a lot of these, if I get a 6-foot Super Dwarf retic, like that little girl that I showed you, and I put her in a 6-foot Viv, 6 by 3 by 2 foot tall or something like that, that's not a very big cage. If you had one snake, you could easily do that. And I'd give, I had the space, I give her 10 times that size because she's fun. I like watching her use everything. And they do. They're not like a green tree. They use everything. They're all over. I would love to do that. But to give my mainland proportionately the same size cage where it can just go stretch out its length if it's close to 20 feet, it's a shipping container. It's a whole bedroom.
Yeah.
So you can't be like, oh, it's so cool. I have my own house. I have a whole snake room. Now I can have my 20 retics. Where's the disconnect?
one snake.
Yeah. What's going on, guys? What's going on? So I don't know. I just feel like it could be a tiger, or it could be that's a super dwarf, or it could be a mainland Mochino anthrax, or those calico cows you guys had there were amazing. Some of those albino citrus animals, those are beautiful animals. There's nothing against those animals. But for the love of God, if you're going to get one, just get the animal, keep it right first. Think about breeding second. And if you haven't had a mainland retic, don't buy the second one until your first one's done.
Adults, yeah.
You show me that you can keep that full-grown mainland female for 5 years without losing interest, without having health issues, without having any of that, then you can go buy a male and breed her to her next year if you want.
Literally.
But you should probably
8 months
do
later.
that first.
Yeah.
And the people that try to make money pumping out mainland retics, there's a disconnect there too, because I'm a moneymaker guy. Because the thing about it is, if I can make money with my snakes, it means I can buy more snakes or them bigger cages or fancy cars or whatever I want, So that's great. But let me tell you this. How many people do you think can have a giant snake?
That is the biggest disconnect in the reptile hobby.
Eugene Bissett, the man, the myth, the legend. You know what I mean? One of the founders of our industry. If you guys don't know who he is,
We hung out with him in Florida.
slap you through the radio. You know what I mean? Eugene Bissett told me, he said, it was very simple, but it stuck with me. Big snake, small market. Small snake, big market.
Yep.
Why are ball pythons popular? They're the right
average person
size.
can hold them. Yep.
They're an impressive snake, size-wise. It's got some oomph to it. It's not a little noodle. It's not a little worm. It's like, big chunky snake, like a blood python, or short tail or whatever. But it's the right size. Small snake. And for as big a snake as a ball python is, they don't have a lot of space requirements. So you can actually keep a proportionately larger snake in a very small cage. A ball python and a corn snake require about the same amount of space. A corn snake is like 20% the size of a ball python.
Might want more. I usually encourage people to do more for corn snakes because
you're probably right.
They will use everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I don't know where the disconnect is, but so that's the thing is, and I might be biased, but I'll just say it. Super Dwarves are the next thing. It's just people have to understand what they truly want with reptile keeping. And I know I've said a lot of controversial things, and a lot of I consider myself a retic guy. A lot of my buddies that are into the retics, I'm sorry if anything I said offends you or it strikes a raw chord. I'm not trying to be this social media internet hater, judgy kind of guy or whatever. When I worked at Prehistoric Pets, I sold tens of thousands of retics. I think I can count on 1 or 2 hands how many of those I still know of. And that was only 10 years ago. And they should live 30, 40, 50 years. I don't like that. So this market, bringing it back to basics, educating, I'm making the snake that I know that you want. Somebody, this is super cocky or whatever, but if you're getting into retics, you don't know what you want yet.
Mhm.
There are so many people that buy that first snake and they don't have it again because they screwed up big time when it
Yeah.
comes to retics.
Yeah.
I know what you want. I know what you're going to learn. I know where you're going to fail, and I know what you're going to adjust into because I've done it painfully myself a lot of times. I'm trying to save you the learning curve. I put an immense amount of time into educational content that I put out to help people think through these things and see the end of the road that they're deciding to go down. You know what I'm saying? I pour into that. And it's because I absolutely love all 10,000 of those retics. I'm so passionate about the animals. I absolutely love retics. You know what I mean? I remember a lot of them. Like, oh, remember that one with like the heart halfway down its neck? Oh, dude, that guy's side rosettes are like up on top. What the hell's going on with this thing? And he doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was my job. And I was a lot younger and much more naive. And I thought I was doing a good thing because the thing about humans, I know you guys like to dabble in psychology a little bit on this channel. The thing about humans is we always expect everyone else to be like us.
Yeah.
I expect people who buy a retic to have done their research to understand what they're getting. I mean, I had that 18-foot wild-caught nasty monster exploding through 3/4 inch thick glass to get out of her cage. You know what I mean? And I ran in there to help her and save her. She's all cut up, and I'm risking life and limb there but I'm worried about the animal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I expect the customers to be like that. 10 years later, they weren't. And that you guys that are listening, I love you guys. 99.9% of you are not. You're not either. You can have good intentions, but you don't know. You don't know what you're getting into. So this perfection of tiger over multiple generations, simple, small, achievable. And my goal is to make these cheap too. They are expensive now. Like it was last week on our live video, we hatched Karampas. That's only the third clutch to hatch in the United States. We're the only ones I've ever bred them. There's 5 adults left. So some of these island localities are exceedingly rare. That's why I get really passionate about, whoa, don't mess with pures because they're almost gone.
Yeah.
And most of it's because they were outcrossed. And obviously, I mean, this is a cross, this tiger, right? So I'm not against, I know. I'm not against crossing. I'm not against crossing.
That was the audience gasping.
Yeah.
But the pures are on another whole thing. That's almost borders into conservation at this point, like 50% Madu here. I have, for the first time in 20 years, a clutch of Madus incubating. And, I don't know if there's any left in the wild. If you can go on your precious Google and Google that little island and go look at it, and you'll see it's all coconut trees now. There's no natural habitat left. And maybe the retics are okay there. Maybe they're not, but you don't see any of them coming into even like Indonesian forums and stuff I'm a part of.
Right.
You don't see any more Madus. It's weird. So that's the thing about pures is like, these are animals that Honey Islands, you're just like, oh, I remember Honey Island. Did you know they were Madus before today?
No.
No.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
maybe the last time you were, when you were up, you talked about it before.
Right.
So
But
here's
outside
the
of
thing.
Outside of that, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing is like people are just learning what a Madu is or what it looks like or and it's already extinct potentially.
It's already
That's
pretty
crazy.
much gone. Yeah.
So please don't try to be like, I can make more money if I say my Calato is a Madu or something. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. The Karampas, the really rare ones, I'm going to like sucker punch everybody that is not into like pure Super Dwarf stuff. They're $10,000. Arbitrary number that I picked. And I've released a few of them, This was the first clutch I sold an okay number because we hatched 9. That's a huge clutch for a Karampa because they're the smallest of all the retics.
Yep.
And so I kept 3, which you can do the math. I sold 6.
Yeah.
They pipped the eggs last week. They're all sold.
Wow.
Yep. Did you wait? Hold on. The real question is, did you sex them already or no?
2.7. Yeah.
2.7.
Great odds. I kept 3 females.
That's crushing it. Yeah.
That doesn't happen to me often. most of the time it's like they all died. So here's the thing: the people that are like, oh, Oh my gosh. And if you want to buy a crumpet for me today, you got to get on a waiting list. You might wait like 2, 3 years.
Waiting list. Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to wait 3 years to pay 10 grand. What this fool talking about? What an idiot. But if I told you that it took me 14 years to get a clutch, because wild-caught retics are not easy to work with, even when they're small. They don't like to lay eggs for you. They love to beat themselves up. They love to have. It took me 14 years to get my first clutch of Krampus, which was 2020, just this time last year. One of my females was $37,500. So if you can wait 2 years and get them in 10 G's, I mean, just put it in perspective. What I'm trying to do is I've got the unique ability through my super lifelong nerdiness about these stupid island localities and crazy little retics to amass like actual legitimate ones and put them together with all that. And then the market has been good. People love these. If I told you I was going to sell this thing, I'd have her. People are begging me to buy this little tiger, and they'll, those calico cows you guys had were amazing, but I can guarantee you I could sell this for more with a phone call. And that's nothing against the animals. I'm just saying that people get it now. It's a brave new world. Reptiles are not disposable anymore. People want something. This is a bonsai tree. People want to grow this animal up its whole life and have it indoors. Possibly, I got a little cage right there that's like it's a 20 gallon. It's their playground during the summer. And I get my little, I sit here and I stare at a computer screen. I'm on a podcast all the time. I was editing videos for YouTube, taking pictures of snakes, staring at screens, talking to people, retail. And every now and then I need to go, and I need to look over and I need to think about a little beach with a little island retic on it out there in the wild, that someday I'm going to go to one of these remote islands because I've never even been there. It's just an imagination and a dream for me at this point. And all that stuff it's a lifelong dream. And if I could share that, the connection that you get with nature, because if you have a dog, you get a connection with an animal. They're great. You know what I mean? But if you have a reptile that came from this island on this little map that nobody's ever heard of before, all of a sudden you're connected to the people on that island, that culture halfway across the world, the temperature, the humidity. You know what I want to do when I get to that island? Everyone's like, oh, are you going to stuff your pockets full? Hell no. If those sticks are still, I would rather take my babies with me and dump them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, what I want to do is I want to take my shoes off. I want to feel what that coral sand feels like under my toes. I want to smell what the air is like. And I want to see how these retics live. And I want to bring a little bit of that back to them. I want to maternally incubate my animals. I want to give that back because I sold 10,000 retics that never got that opportunity. This is my penance. This is my penance. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I think that it's very easy for people in the reptile industry to blame the big breeders at the top for the way things are. It's not them. Guys, if you look at Kevin, he loves his animals. He's passionate about that stuff. He educates people. He tries. It's not them. And we can all do better. Myself, 100% included. My number one goal, biggest Herculean effort for me, is to build a gigantic facility, and not so I can have a million more animals, because I want to give these guys like some serious room. That would be so cool. Breed in a place that looks like the Reptarium or something like that.
Yeah.
The Brian Barcheks of the world, the Kevin McCurleys of the world, these are kids that were passionate about animals that somehow figured out how to collect them from around the world before that was a thing, that learned how to keep them alive. And then in some cases, like Kevin's case, learned how to connect with them on a physiological level.
Yeah.
A psychological level.
Yeah.
Oh, physiological too, I'm sure. Come on.
Yeah.
but no, my point is like, these guys are in love with the animals.
Yeah.
So if the industry is bad, if the market is bad, if all that kind of stuff, because like, Jay Brewer, I used to work for him. I love the guy. He makes a lot of retics. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you this, the retics under his care live. And if he sold 10,000 of them and everyone else killed theirs, I worked there. He does everything he can to make sure that people know how to take care of these animals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, I continue to do that stuff today.
Educate.
So it's easy to yell at 2 or 3 people that are popular on YouTube, but how did 10,000 of us change? I don't know the answer. You know, but for retics specifically, it's this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's these little guys.
Yeah.
You know, and I can still keep the retics. I can help other people do the same thing, but we can do it in a way that's, you know, legit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Was that a long enough rant for you? I think
Well, I was just gonna say, I think that we've already gone over our time, but
that was my goal.
No, that's well,
Hey,
we
went
did
over
it.
we went over time on their
Preach.
podcast,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
think it's only
Preach it
good.
out.
Yeah,
There's not really a time on our
so-
podcast.
that's true.
At the end of our podcast, we always ask people one very important question. And I don't know, I feel like I might know the answer to what you're going to say, but what in the realm of reptiles, be it something that you're working with or something that you've seen someone else working with, or something in the wild that's going on, anything within the greater umbrella of reptiles, what is something about reptiles that's got you excited right now? Module eggs.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
Those are that's very
African house
cool.
snakes.
That's up there. It's up there.
African house snakes is definitely on it. So African house snakes for me is like a new discovery, new road. I don't know anything about them, and I'm getting 60 more brought over.
Oh my God! Wait!
Jesus.
60 more than the ones that you had when you came up and saw us.
Yeah,
Oh
60
my
new
goodness.
ones. Yeah.
So those Karampas went straight into house snakes.
Actually, yeah. So
Wait. Okay, I'm just saying, don't ever shit on me again when I buy 10 snakes, Rob.
oh, I don't do things easy. No. I don't do things easy. I do
I'm here for this.
way too much. No, the thing that excites me most about the reptile industry, you know, in the beginning, everyone collected one snake and it was a pet. Nobody bred, and everybody had all this diversity. And then people started complaining like, oh, I hate the new, quote unquote, new. But for us now, it's all old because it's the last 20 years. Reptile shows where everything's leopard geckos and ball pythons and bearded dragons, like 3 species in the whole show. And it used to be hundreds. I used to go to reptile shows to see snakes where I'm like, oh, I never heard of that before. I used to import snakes on my own, and I would just pick all the scientific names I didn't know. You know what I mean? No, but the problem was very few people followed with those species. They were just collecting. Yeah. And that's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of diversity and a lot of cool stuff to that. But it might be the worst part of the hobby because it's consuming wildlife. You're taking them out of the wild, you're putting them in a box, and you're waiting for them to die, no matter if that takes 2 months or 2 years or 20 years. You're consuming wildlife. I love captive breeding. I love the fact that the ball python is the perfect snake for people who weren't sure that they like snakes, and that there's enough colors of them at low enough prices that anybody can get whatever they want in a ball python right now, you know?
Yeah.
The thing that gets me excited is that the pendulum is swinging back the other way, but it's not wild caught anymore. Captive bred Timor pythons, $2,500, $3,500 a pair.
Yep.
Synzinia are ridiculously expensive. Everybody and their mom is trying so hard to make bolins. If you buy a bolins for a pet, everyone's like, I hate your guts. Yeah. You should die. You know what I mean? It's true.
Yeah.
I love the people that are like, you know what? If you like ball pythons are cool. Like, you know, guys like Kevin, what he did with ball pythons, you know, Justin Kabilka is the man. You know, like these guys are doing awesome things, and I love to see what they do with that stuff. And I can enjoy it from over here as their little snake uncle or lizard uncle or crocodilian uncle. But I just want you to, I like to see when people discover what they really like, and you almost like express yourself in keeping of reptiles. We were joking about reptile people that are like the reptiles. You're expressing yourself just like Rob's got big hoops in his ears and all that kind of stuff, or some guy with his fancy car, fancy clothes, fancy wife, whatever. Yeah, tattoos, piercings, your vocabulary, whatever it is, the way that you express yourself. Reptile keepers that express themselves with reptiles while challenging themselves to provide the best possible husbandry, to develop the market so that other people can share and learn to love the species that they work with. It's all over. Do you know what I so badly wanted to do before I got the house snakes? Because the house snakes were a better fit. Ringneck snakes. I was like, dude, ringneck snakes are the coolest. They're so pretty. You can find them anywhere. And there's morphs, there's calicos, there's albinos. No one's doing that stuff. The reason I had all those scrubs, I was like, why isn't anyone breeding scrubs? And when people started to, I was like, okay, I feel like I can let go now.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else has got that, and that's fine. I just want them to be there for the next guy down the line. So it's like, go find something you think. I mean, I don't care if it's a freaking American toad outside. Like, this toad's got bigger red spots than the other one.
Okay, so speaking of American toads, I'm going to shout out Spencer from Tree Frog Collective because he's got translucent American toads and albinos too.
What?
That's crazy. That's
His
crazy.
account is private on Instagram, but if you follow him, Garrett, I bet you he's got some really cool stuff.
I absolutely geek out of it because I would do it all if there was 100,000 of me. I think I can do just maybe one species really well because of the amount of dedication it takes. I just want to see other people that do that too with what they love. That's what I love. And it's very exciting time in herpetoculture for that.
For sure.
Hell yeah, most definitely.
All right, Garrett. So if people want to find out more about you and the stuff that you're doing, where are they going to find you?
Reach out reptiles, everything.
Everywhere.
If you want to like binge watch a bunch of fun stuff or whatever, go to YouTube. If you want eye candy, go to Instagram. It's the way to do it. Reach out reptiles.
Boom.
Bam.
That's it, man.
There you go, dude.
We appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time and hanging with us and giving me some education. I like getting educated, so thank you.
I feel like I've gotten to know you like 10 times better in this podcast than even when we hung out.
Well, when we were hanging out, it was with Cusco, and he doesn't allow me to be myself. In attempts, he's always like, "No talking about Super Dwarves. I want to hear about Garrett." And I was like, "You can't separate that.
It's the same thing."
You're talking about splicing
sense.
DNA.
He's wiggly and
Super
small
Dwarf don't
and-
care.
Yes. And cut. That's the end of the
That's
episode.
gonna be a hashtag on the IG post. I'm saying.
All right, man. We're gonna have to do this again sometime. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
I love you
Go
guys.
get some
You guys are
rest.
the best.
I love you too, man.
I love you too, dude.
All right. Take care.
Boom, boom.
That was a really fun episode.
That was freaking awesome.
That was great.
That was awesome. So, okay. So, if people want to figure out more about what's going on with Reptile Talk, where do they need to go, Rob?
They need to go to our OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/reptile talk.
Boom.
Check me out on Instagram at Rob is Creeping It Real, and Jeremy
At Brassman Reptiles on Instagram and YouTube.
Boom. There it is.
There you go.
We'll see you guys next time.